Welcome to the Leadership Exchange. Today I'm joined by Nana Appafram, the HR Director of Yahoo Medical Centre in Ghana. Welcome, Nana.
Thank you, and a pleasure to be here, Maggie. Really is.
Great to have you. Nana and I first worked together when she was actually the HR Director of in Ethiopia for Diageo. And now, of course, working in Ghana in her current role, which she's held for 3 years, although she still describes herself as a newcomer to the healthcare sector.
Still learning.
Yeah. So Yahoo Medical Centre has a wonderful vision to be, and I'm going to read this, Africa's most trusted name in healthcare. Mm-hmm. And describe themselves, whilst it was family-led organisation, that there's a corporate structure with family values at the heart.
Absolutely. And I think it sits at the core of the founder's vision for Yahoo, to ensure that our value associated with being patient and family-centered in our care delivery is never lost, irrespective of how big, we become as an organization.
That's wonderful. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Lives. Huh?
Yeah. Saving lives, absolutely.
Yeah. So as an HR professional with over 20 years experience, these have been quite some months, and I'm curious about what you've realized or reclaimed or learned anew, the gifts of this time, if you like, Nana. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what are those gifts for you?
I mean, it's very interesting, Maggie, as I kind of reflect on this question. And yes, irrespective of the number of years that, I've had in HR, I'm always mindful that, healthcare is just so different from the other sectors that I've worked in: manufacturing, business process outsourcing. Here is an environment where every decision has an implication in terms of saving lives. Mm. And for me, as an HR director, being able to navigate the top team through this huge change, and I don't think that anybody, irrespective of the number of years of leading, would have gone through a period that such as the one that we've just gone through. And as the one that's leading on people and culture, you do what you do to earn trust. But I think for me, the gift has been the extent to which these, and I have execs who have been 20, 18 years in healthcare, who, probably, from university had made up their minds that they wanted to be in health, etc. But just being at a position to have earned their trust in such a way as to help them navigate this terrain, I think has been the real gift for me. And it's been helping these leaders navigate conflict, come out the other end, and really use their relationships to achieve obviously the quality delivery that we need in terms of healthcare. But just being in a position of trust. And I always talk about trusted advisor. So young, I guess, in my tenure in healthcare, I think has been probably the biggest gift for me, takeaway. if I step back and I think about the organization overall as well, one of the things that we were going through just before the pandemic hit was really understanding our mission, vision, values, but also articulating what our leadership standards are. What are those behaviors that we want to stand for as leaders? We call them RAST, so being reliable, authenticity, being skilled, and showing kindness as we connect and work with each other. And I think stepping back and looking at the organization, I see really teams that have had to navigate, understand. So if I look at my ER team, for example, really at the forefront, ICU team at the forefront of the fight against COVID, but just seeing that kindness elevated, that authenticity around, these are the things that we need. These are the things that will support us as a team, deliver care and deliver quality care. So just seeing people elevate those attributes and those behaviors, I think have also been a real gift.
Well, that's wonderful. I love the way you talk about kindness, and I love the way you actually name kindness, right there every day. Important part of your behavioral contract with one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about kindness not in the sense of, I always say, just be nice for nice sake. I think that kindness is also about being real, having difficult conversations, calling out what's not acceptable, but also celebrating people. We've seen a lot of that over the last few weeks and months.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. Yeah, sometimes the kindest thing is to tell people the truth,
Yeah.
Bring their attention, don't leave them in the dark, and have tough conversations.
Having those tough conversations.
Yeah.
Having those tough conversations, yeah.
So, as well as the gifts, what's been out of awareness or lost anyway at this time? The sort of costs. Clearly huge health costs to many people, but what, from your perspective in your HR role and as a member of an executive team and in your leadership, what's been out of awareness at this time? Because we've all become very, COVID focused in the world, understandably. You're sort of obsessed with one thing. It's like, well, what's actually out of awareness that's interesting territory too?
For me as a leader, the key has been to be more attentive and to listen more, and not be too overly driven by what often we're all led by, which is performance, etc. And ensuring that we don't lose sight of the importance of the well-being of our staff and our employees. Because Maggie, so it's actually quite easy to present data that leads you on a particular route, but just stopping and listening, really, really actively listening to the needs of the staff, and the things that need to be, the decisions that need to be made to enhance and nurture that psychological safety, I think, and well-being. So critical. We don't lose sight of that.
You're looking after so many lives very directly. And so it's really vital that there's that self-care within the system.
I love that phrase, self-care. I think that's absolutely the right phrase. It's about self-care. And how do we support them do that?
Yeah. I think we've all needed in our different ways to become attuned to what good looks like in terms of self-care in our lives and in our working lives. Yeah, it's a different, very different landscape in that regard. And I personally welcome mental health, actually, the care to mental health really coming onto the agenda in organisations in these recent months in a way that it never did before. And that's a really welcome addition.
Yeah.
The leadership conversation.
Yeah. And what we tried to do, Maggie, here, is to actually have some of those conversations, during, leadership meetings. And most of our meetings are held virtually now, but really creating the space to have a conversation about feeling afraid, about victimization, about, what having or what being in healthcare means for our staff, especially when they go back to their communities, and being known as a COVID treatment centre. What are the things that they're having to deal with when they go back home? And these are some of the conversations that we've actively engaged in, just to make it less about the individual carrying it, more about us carrying it collectively, and sharing in whatever the right answers are. You're absolutely right. Mental health is a conversation that we need to continue to have, particularly in this environment.
So as we look to the future now, given all that you've experienced, what's your insight in terms of what becomes an absolute imperative for organisations moving into the future? What must be preserved from what we've learned, from what we've been, what would be the right word? I suppose almost like shocked into.
And Maggie, and I say this probably to my absolute shame, that maybe a year, 2 years back, if a member of my staff came and suggested or hinted about working remotely, I would have shut it down. I would have just shut the conversation down without feeling guilty about it. But I think for me, what this time has done is just shown what's possible, and clearly my clinicians have to be on site or a healthcare facility, etc. But there have been a lot of our non-clinical teams that have had to operate from home for quite a period of time. One of the things that has really impressed on me, Maggie, is how much of themselves they've given. Complete opposite to, I guess, how we would think in terms of people working remotely, and their productivity and their commitment, and so on and so forth. So I think if there's something to preserve, to be preserved, I would say we need to embrace the new ways of working. We need we need to let go of, how things used to be. And really be deliberate about not reverting to default, and just embrace these new ways and find ways of driving productivity. So when I look at my own team, I'm seeing more courage, I'm seeing more visibility, I'm seeing them step into their fullest self, because, we've trusted, we've shown trust, or we've been forced to show trust, as the case may be. So, I think for me, it's embracing this new world that we're moving into, and not defaulting.
Yeah, I appreciate your honesty, and I don't think you're alone. Many people would say, if they'd have had that request about, I want to, permanently work at home, or 4 days a week at home. No, the rule book just wasn't written that way.
Absolutely.
Ago, even 8 months ago. But this has shown us a whole new possibility.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And as you rightly say, made us challenge our beliefs as leaders in terms of what's possible.
But also, I think for me, the real key is and I'm sure there will be data that backs it up, but for me, anecdotally, how much more people give of themselves when you engender trust, within your team. And for me, that's been just great to see, great to observe.
That's wonderful. So finally, how has this time forever shaped or changed your leadership for the future?
Maggie, my default, and this has been as a result of, I guess, the organizations that I've had the privilege to work in year to date, have been being able to deliver, having a lot of resources at your disposal, and I think what this period has taught me is how to achieve more with very little. It's interesting when I've been asked in the past to describe myself, I'd always say I'm not a very creative person, not creative at all. I would always say that. But when I look back, we have had to tap into the depths of our creativity to both navigate the terrain, to drive engagement, and you suddenly realize, okay, I can achieve. I don't have to lower my standards. I can achieve more, even when faced with little, and that shifts certain things in your brain, in your outlook for the future. So I think for me, that's been a big aha in terms of my personal leadership.
Nana, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a joy to have you and have this conversation.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure, Maggie. Really enjoyed it.
And thank you to everyone who's been watching today. And we look forward to welcoming you to the Leadership Exchange in the future. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Maggie, and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.